all of the talk about, well, we're going to get the oil. Oh, no, you're not. It's a lot more complicated.
Hi, I'm David with EV World News, where we talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
I am pleased to say it's okay.
Yeah, well, we've been discussing Forward Live. We've been discussing Venezuela, and it's obviously tied to energy, but it strikes me the thing that was odd about this, because the most likely situation is Maduro knew the Americans were coming and was allowing it. I don't know why he would allow for all of the Cuban troops to get wiped out, because they killed like 32 or 33 Cuban troops that were guarding the facility. But and I've heard people say there was no U.S. casualties. There was at least 2 casualties.
There were died. Guys in the helicopter.
2 guys got injured. Yeah, because one of the helicopters got shot.
Yeah.
En route, not when they were making the assault, but somewhere.
Somebody didn't get the message.
Yeah, it seems that the fact that there wasn't more ground fire, to me, seems a little suspicious. But he had opportunity. I think, wasn't it Spain had offered to let him come live there, or somebody had offered him?
It wouldn't surprise me. Apparently the favored Airbnb for dictators is Russia. There's talk that the Ayatollah is getting ready to join the former head of Syria. There. So who knows? There's strong relationship between Venezuela and the Russians, and so who knows?
One of the problems with this is that not that Cuba needs to be destabilized. They've been destabilized for a long time.
There's a mess there.
But they're financially propped up by Venezuela's oil.
Yeah.
And so this is going to cause a real problem for Cuba. I don't know what you're going to see happen there. I mean, I've heard that, Marco Rubio make threats against Cuba, but I don't know what they do. I mean, it's going to be really a problem.
They unfortunately fall back to what happened after the fall of the Soviet Union. They go into a very desperate period of food hunger and energy shortages and God knows what else. So, it's a shame. That's one of the countries I would someday, islands. I had even thought about, I would put my quick bike system there and was working towards that as a possibility to provide electric bikes for tourists arriving in Havana. And I had established communication with people that could help make that happen. And of course, then the period of détente, or whatever you want to call it, under Obama with the Cubans, that all reversed after Trump took effect. So, there's things are bad enough that already they're not getting spare parts for their power plants that were running off of crude oil from Venezuela. So it's going to be a difficult time for the people in Cuba. And if you think that Rubio going down there and getting his revenge and people fleeing, okay, maybe that'll help. But boy, all these problems are just protracted situations.
Well, I mean, I talk about this a lot, how, poverty, a lot of it comes from a lack of energy. Well, if all of a sudden Cuba, they're impoverished as it is, but still their energy situation is just going to get worse now.
The interesting thing that I heard, they've had all these problems with the economy of Venezuela. Do you realize that that Venezuela seems to me it was in before Maduro came in that period, not Maduro, what am I saying? Before Chavez came in, that they were the 4th highest, something like that, 4th or 5th highest GDP.
I was thinking they were number one. They were
Yeah,
number one
no,
in
they,
South
well, in
America.
South America, yeah, in South America, but even globally, they were,
Oh, okay.
globally they were up there, and within the top 10.
Per capita, they were the number one importer in the world of Ford F-150s.
Oh
So
yeah.
I know it.
Where'd you pick that little nugget up?
I don't remember, but I remember hearing that a few
Yeah.
years ago that before Chavez, so that they started out, Chavez takes over, he starts nationalizing the oil company. By nationalize, that means he took the oil companies away from the companies that made all the investments in Venezuela.
And fired, I heard, 18,000 oil industry professionals.
Yeah. So last year, I think it may have been around January, there'd been appeals by Venezuela in like the world court that were upheld, saying that Venezuela owed U.S. oil companies $9 billion for what it stole. And so there was some precursor for what's happened in the past couple of weeks. Okay. Or the past week, I should say. But it's interesting to kind of see, because Venezuela was a super prosperous country before they decided to do this, and then they nationalized, they took away people's guns. Then what was it, a few years ago, we had this joke going on about the Venezuelan diet, how the average person in Venezuela had lost like 18 pounds in the previous year.
That's what happened in Cuba. For some stupid, I'm going to say it, some stupid ass reason, he decided to copy Cuba's model, the Castro model, because they did exactly the same thing when Castro came to power and nationalized the sugar industry. And most of that was all being run, with prosperity. Prosperity of Cuba was coming from the sugar industry, and then of course tourism and so on.
We've had all kinds of forms of government in the world, right? We've had monarchies. Monarchy's probably been the most common form of government, in world history, right?
An autocratic government.
Yeah. Communism has been proven to fail over and over again. Socialism has been proven to fail over and over again. The Chinese went through massive growing. Yeah, I get some of it. I praise China on here occasionally because of the fact that they're run by engineers and not true politicians, not lawyers. They're people who are actually in their own weird way, and it's probably still massive corruption, but they're still running things in a way that kind of makes sense, right?
Certainly given what we see in the form of what they've done with the renewable energy, with electric cars, with batteries. Yeah.
I mean, they're a bad actor in a lot of spaces. I've had a lot of discussions lately about things going on with Amazon sales, especially of products made in China. And a company in China, if they are selling on Amazon and exporting products via Amazon, the government will give them a 4 to 12% rebate on their sales. And it really makes for a very unfair playing field for folks who are selling other products in there. And then you mix this with what they do with their currency. They're constantly devaluing their currency. On the flip side, these things are great for China, right? They're unfair for the rest of the world. We see China doing these things, but that doesn't make China a criminal organization. I don't think that China's flooding the world with drugs, although I've seen accusations about
unless you
fentanyl.
talk, what is it, fentanyl?
Yeah, I see accusations about fentanyl. I don't know if it really comes from China or not. Okay. That's something that this is not something I've ever really spent any time looking at.
No, I haven't either.
What I'm getting at is they've done a lot of things where it may not be, you certainly don't have free speech. You don't have the right to look at whatever you want to on the internet. That's for sure. And they have all these controls over the people. But on the flip side, it seems like they're generally trying to do things that are in the best interest of the greater population, to some degree. And so there's some, I get that. I'm not saying that I support communism.
Greater interest in keeping the population happy so they stay in power.
Yeah. The closest I could describe the Chinese government is National Socialism. So they're the closest thing to what the Nazis were trying to do, and to make it somewhat successful of anybody that's ever tried National Socialism. But they call it communism because it's the same. It's not really that different.
Yeah, it's the rule of the many for the good of the many, or whatever you want to call it.
But anyways, this keeps coming back to us. But we were going to talk. So you think the Ayatollah is going to flee to Russia, and do you think Reza Pahlavi will go back into power? I mean, I don't.
Well, no, there's the question, because apparently the Iranian people, if you watch any of the news coming out of, what limited news there is coming out of Tehran, that's already happening. They're marching. The people are marching in the streets. They are citing, and I can't say it in Farsi or Persian, but they're talking about, death to the dictator. And they're talking about long live the king, something similar to long live the king. And they've got a national song now. It's a pretty good, nice beat to it, tune to it, that basically talking about the return of the Pahlavis. He's already the crown prince, and there are some references to even calling him he's living in exile at the moment, but they're referring to him also as the new Shah. So what brings me to this, however, is I came across a video that was talking about the origins of this crisis. It began with basically a drought, and it's been a long-running drought, and the water reservoirs that and the aquifers that were supplying Tehran, which is a city of like 14 million people, have been sucked dry. The reservoir, there's little or no water left in the main reservoir. The aquifers are being sucked so dry that in a number of Iranian cities, they are sinking at a rate of 3 inches a year. There's just no water there to support the soil, so the cities are beginning to collapse. There's sinkholes appearing all over the place. This is a major ecological disaster, for these people. Yeah, they've got oil and they've got gas. It's sanctioned, and getting it out of, through the Straits of Hormuz and, all that to the rest of the world doesn't, you can't drink oil, folks.
Well, they've got plenty of that,
oil. So this is just beginning to cascade. Last week or week before last, the Iranian rial collapsed, and because of that, all of the merchants shut down. They went into a general strike, and now you have people have finally turned out in the streets, and the Iranian guards, the thugs that maintain control over the country, they're not showing up. In fact, there was one, we don't know if it was staged or not, but supposedly an Iranian policeman set fire, on a video, somebody shot of him setting fire to a picture of the Ayatollah. So there's a lot. So it's been an interesting weekend with what's happening with in Venezuela. And the thing is that Venezuela, apart from taking Maduro out, nothing's changed. You still have the same government and the same people that were running that country still in charge. So I don't know how Rubio, or now it's rumored that Miller's going to act as Stephen Miller's going to act as the viceroy. Don't know. It's still a question as to what's really going to happen. Oil, yes, Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. And boy, wouldn't that be nice having that in?
What is it? It's heavy sulfur crude.
It's very heavy, dirty, smelly sulfur crude. Whereas
it's hard to refine.
Very hard. There's only a handful of refiners. Interestingly, and I think you'll find this interesting. Do you know what country has the greatest ability to refine the widest range of crude oils?
The U.S.
No. India.
Oh, that's interesting.
India has the ability to take Russian crude, which is kind of halfway between the sweet light crude that's produced in American fields and take the heavy, gunky stuff out of Venezuela, out of the Orinoco Basin, take that and refine that and turn that into petroleum and then gasoline, basically, and then export that to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and when you talk about the cleaner fuel, that's like the difference between, the dirty coal they have in Pennsylvania versus the cleaner coal we get out of the Rockies, right?
Out of the Rockies, right?
Yeah. It's not that much cleaner, but
what is it? Bituminous versus anthracite or something like that?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it to be able to comment. But as I've been doing stuff in the nuclear space, I've been learning more and more about water desalination, and because one of the things you can use, the small reactors produce heat that can be used to desalinate water. Basically, you can take that salt water, you convert it to steam, then the steam gets reconstituted into water. And you leave the salt. But in traditional desalination setups, they're usually using like reverse osmosis. And so what happens is the salt and water are left over here that are kind of cleaning. And then you have the clean water go pass through the sponges or whatever that is the reverse osmosis membrane. But what happens is you have all this brine.
Right.
And the problem with the brine, if you dump it back in the water, you destroy the water ecosystem.
Yep.
And this is a problem because there's this huge place in Orange County, California, that was built for desalinizing water for Los Angeles. And they don't use it because it ended up being this huge problem.
Okay, if you look at a map of Iran, right, they're having this huge drought there. And like I was talking about, the aquifers are being sucked dry and the reservoirs are empty. Just north of there, on the northern coast of Iran, is what? A huge inland sea, the Caspian. So I thought, well, why don't you guys take all your money and your nuclear technology you've been working on and build a desalination plant and then pipe that down to Tehran, refill the reservoirs. You know what? There's a little problem. It's called mountains.
Yeah.
Between the Caspian and the valley, the region where Tehran is located. So I was chatting with the AI about this. It said it would make more sense to actually pull it from the Persian Gulf, desalinize it, and then send it over to Tehran and the other cities that are having water shortages. But of course, then you have this problem of what do you do with the brine, right? The dump that back into the Persian Gulf. What happens? So,
yeah, you really can't be doing that because then you kill the wildlife and I'm sure Iran's heavily dependent on fish, for food.
Well, yeah, I would imagine.
It's just a real problem. Yeah, they used to depend on the snow from the Alborz Mountains.
Right. Those are the mountains you'd have to pump the water over the top of. Yeah.
Yeah. And now they're just not getting as much snowfall. And so they're not having as much melt that gives them.
And same thing's happening in places like Chile. Right, their glaciers are slowly melting away. There's worry about the snowfall in that feeds the Yangtze River, in the Tibetan highlands. And this is just one of the first, examples of what happens when you've got a climate that's warming and we're not taking any steps to basically be prepared for it.
Yeah, well, anyways, it's kind of wild how, all of this is related to energy because you look at Venezuela and Iran, they're both huge energy
oil producers. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're having, Venezuela's problem was it had somebody running it that was a bad actor. Not saying that the Ayatollahs are bad actors. I mean, they clearly have some messed up things going on.
There are. It's that's what. Basically, one of them is ideologically driven, and the other one is theologically or religiously driven. So
yeah. So, anyways,
I'm glad I'm in America. Even
You
with
know,
our problems, I'm glad I'm here.
if Reza Pahlavi does become Shah in Iran and takes back over, that probably will remodernize that country. It was the most modern country in the Middle
Oh,
East
yeah.
under
Yep.
under his dad.
Yep.
And I used to be friends with the Minister of Education under the Shah,
Okay.
and I've stayed at their house a few times. They live in the Washington D.C. area. I worked for their son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and anyways, nice people and all that, but they were always talking about how the CIA was always, you know, coming to visit them. You know,
Oh, yeah,
not
I'm
in D.C.,
sure.
but when they were in Iran. You know,
Oh, yeah,
trying,
I'm sure.
to
If you know anything about what happened in 1954, under ironically the father of Colin Powell
was involved in that.
was involved in that. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
Colin Powell's father was involved in that. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I love people. I've known Persian people are always great, but it's just sad to see what happened to their country.
Yeah.
But it could become a very, not to say that Turkey is a shining example of what everybody should be, but Turkey's one of the few not so destabilized countries in the Middle East.
Right.
I'm not saying, we had that situation where, what was it? Oh, I guess it was the Saudis that murdered somebody in Turkey, wasn't it?
That was the Washington Post columnist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm just saying it'd be nice to see Iran go back to being sort of a more normalized country.
Well, I'm sure the people in
Saudi
Iran
Arabia
are certainly, from what we're seeing in the way of coverage coming out of the various cities in Iran, particularly Tehran, are more than eager to go back to that and get some semblance of normalcy and freedom in their lives that they couldn't under the thug religion that had been imposed on them.
Well, you look at
the interesting thing. Yeah, there's a young lady who, interestingly, is a Canadian, or was until recently a Canadian member of Parliament, who is Iranian, Goldie Sharmai or something like that. Very lovely young lady who is now speaking out, has got her podcast. She's talking about what's going on there in Tehran. And she's referring to this, what's happening as she refers to the Islamic things as the occupiers.
Mm-hmm.
So that the coming in of Khomeini, the original Khomeini, right,
mm-hmm.
and all that, and the Islamic, that when the forces of Muhammad and so on in the 700s and that period of time came in and conquered the Persian Empire, they became occupiers. And some of the people in Iran still view them. How many years has that been? Over a millennium. Over a millennium, and they're still referring to the invading Muslim occupiers.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where that ends up.
I hope it ends up the way we'd like to, like we'd like to see it for the Cuban people, and we'd like to see it for the Venezuelans, and so where they have a stable, democratic, equitable, fair, progressive, government that makes life more enjoyable and productive for the people.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's move on to some different energy news. Let's see. I want to talk about the Sony Honda Afeela 1.
Yeah.
They have built the first production car in Ohio, but it's $102,900.
$102,900. It's got to be one hell of a car for that price.
Now, here's the thing.
Apparently it isn't.
It's a Sony. When you think Sony, you always think of premium TVs, premium gaming consoles, everything Sony, Sony monitors. It's always considered to be top notch.
The Cadillac. The Mercedes, right.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see some of this going on. Let's see. Let's see what they've got. Oh, they were showing it off at CES. I've actually, people at CES is going on right now. I've had people like connecting me, to people that are there, that think they need to come. I've got somebody that somebody feels should come on our show already that somebody ran into there. But anyways, Sony joined with Honda Mobility in 23 and formed this Afeela brand. And the first one has rolled off the line. It's manufactured at the same location as the Honda CR-V, the Acura RDX, and the MDX. It's a trial production run. Wonder how many vehicles are going to produce. Is it just the one?
Well, they'll typically, if they're committing to full-scale production, then they'll build a series of them. This is the first one that is a complete, gone through the complete assembly process. But if they've gone to that, it's not like you handed this off to a division or a separate company that builds showroom prototypes, right? Or car show prototypes. If they've done it there, they have plans. They've built the jigs and set up the robots and everything. So they're planning, to do more than just build that one car.
Okay, so this is called the signature trim at the 103,000. They have another one called the Origin trim, which will cost $89,900 or $90,000 when it goes on sale in 2027. And you can pre-order. It's $200 deposit, but you have to live in California. Yeah. You have to be a California resident. You have to take delivery in California. It will be garaged in California, and it will be titled and registered in California. Yeah,
they want to be able to keep track of it so they can, since it's first run like that, they want to make sure that there aren't any unexpected hiccups once it gets out into people's hands. That was the same thing they did back in the original EV mandate period, where if you leased a car, you could only lease an EV like the Honda EV Plus, which was their first fully electric car in 1998 timeframe. You could only have those in California because they wanted to be able to, get dealers trained and get customers trained. And if there are any problems, it would be a lot easier to bring it in or tow it into the, facility than it was to put it on a truck and haul it from Kansas to, to Orange County.
Yeah. So it has 483 horsepower, which is a lot of horsepower. Obviously, being Sony, I'm sure it has a nice sound system.
You would think.
They're saying hands-free level 2 automated driving,
which is basically put it on a interstate, and I guess it'll lane keep on an interstate.
Okay, and dash spanning infotainment system. It can only DC fast charge at a max of 150 kilowatts. Has a EPA range of 300 miles, which is kind of low for this price range. So they're giving an example. The $39,000 Hyundai Ioniq 5 has longer range and charges at twice the speed.
Yeah, they obviously have some benchmarks that they need to reach to be competitive.
Yeah. For $90,000 to Lucid, you get an Air Touring, has a lot more power, 131 more miles range, 250 kilowatt charging, and a much better design.
I would say so, yeah.
And if you paid $115,000 for an Air Grand Touring, you get double the horsepower, 512 miles of range, and 300 kilowatt fast charging. And they're built in the U.S. as well. Jalopnik says, albeit with more sinister backing, that Lucid has sinister backing, being backed by the oil companies, I guess. I don't know.
If it's Lucid, the backing, of course, is the Saudis.
The Sauds. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting that Arabia is named after the rulers that run it, It's called Saudi Arabia because it's run by the
Right.
Saud family.
Do we want to get into that interesting story? Oh my God. That because it used to be just Arabia, right? Lawrence
Right.
of Arabia, right?
Yeah.
And then of course, once the family of the Sauds, marshaled their zealots to go on a jihad. And I mean, what is this? All desert with a few handful of settlements and cities. They were able to to take it over. Right. I think that's the whole Lawrence of Arabia period, basically, right during and after World War II, and they took it over and set up a king, and it's the family of the Sauds.
We're World War I, wasn't it?
I mean, that's what I meant. World War I. Yes.
Yeah.
World War I. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going into another one of these phases where EV growth is slowing. Not EV sales are slowing. EV growth is slowing. So for this year, the prediction is EVs will only grow by 12% worldwide to 24.3 million units, which the growth rate had been 24%.
Right.
This is from Bloomberg. China cut its EV tax break in half for 26 and added restrictions to cash for clunkers programs, limiting eligibility. Despite record sales in 25, the market is cooling as early adopters are saturated and mainstream consumers remain hesitant. Obviously they've sold a lot without the incentives here in the U.S., but if we, like we said before, if we look at the German model in even if the sales stay down in 26 and 27, they'll start accelerating again.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Since you mentioned, and I just happened to think of this, mentioned the Chinese. There is a couple of stories I've seen this morning that Geely, the China, one of the, I think they're the second largest behind BYD. Geely is planning to enter the U.S. market in the next 2 to 3 years. Oh. How they're going to do that, I have no idea. But apparently, that's their aim, is to start bringing their cars here to the U.S. in the next 2 to 3 years.
I bet they start making them here.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, when the tariffs
or making them in Mexico, and maybe that allows them because of NAFTA or whatever to bring them up to the U.S.
Yeah, they'll do something like that. I mean, the 100% tariff in the U.S. to me makes it worth building it here.
They've got the one car what was that now? I can't remember the name of it, but the one car, the E5 or something like that, $33,000, the equivalent of $33,000, and damn, is it good looking. It is a really, really, I mean, I would not be unhappy driving that particular car around town. Really nice looking car.
All right. So here's something kind of interesting. In the past year, the U.S. has added about 18,000 AC charging ports, averaging 49 new charging ports per day. And for DC fast charging ports, we now have 68,000 over 14,600 locations, with strong expansion expected in 26. The NEVI program, which was, in politics, this was criticized because there'd only been like 8 chargers installed and all, for a program that had all these billions of dollars allocated.
Yeah.
They've gone from 8 to 384.
There we go.
Yeah, that's
a
pretty
time,
Yeah.
Rome was not built in a day.
Well, the application process for the NEVI thing was like a 3-4 year thing. It was the most ridiculous application process. I mean, that process was designed to retain public sector jobs. That was the entire, that was the bad part about it. It wasn't that the whole idea of creating this electric vehicle infrastructure idea was bad. The idea was they had all of these levels of approvals and constant things that required all kinds of public personnel to monitor and approve that. And since the administration's changed, they've streamlined a lot of these processes to make it a lot easier actually to qualify. But some of the states have had to sue the federal government to be able to get this money released so that they can still get their chargers, because so much work had been done over the previous couple of years trying to get this set up. And I don't know. It's been a weird point of contention. I think the program wasn't, it was, I'll just say it was ill-designed. Okay. It wasn't with ill intent, but somehow it just got written into just some craziness. All right. Company called Kairos, starts with a K, Kairos Energy, building an SMR nuclear reactor in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. They're constructing one using molten salt cooling instead of water.
A lot of nuclear expertise there.
Oh, yeah.
A long time.
Yeah. Oak Ridge is where it all started.
That's where it all started.
Test reactor.
Technically, it actually started under a stadium in Chicago, but that's another story.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that. Test reactor for Kairos expected in 28, commercial demo in 2030. Google has contracted 500 megawatts of capacity by 2035 to power data centers. Trump admin awarded $800 million for a new reactor tech, plus $1 billion loan guarantee to restart 3 Mile Island. My story here kind of goes on to say triso fuel, which is uranium particles in graphite pebbles, which is one of the things that prevents the newer technology from having
runaway.
Yeah, from having a runaway. It's sort of being criticized. Critics warn claims are oversold and pose safety risks. Well, some of it is how the systems are still cooled and how the cooling is managed. A lot of this is still generation 3 nuclear. The generation 4 nuclear has to use systems that don't require human intervention. And so there's like 8 different technologies for generation 4. None of them are ready for market in the United States yet. Oddly, they are doing them overseas. So there are a couple of generation 4 reactors in other countries, mainly China. And it's interesting to see how the U.S. is just kind of lingering behind in some of the space, because it's U.S. designed technology that they're using over there.
Yeah.
And just haven't put it here. Constellation Energy gets nuclear NRC approval for 167 million digital modernization of the Limerick nuclear plant. I don't know where the Limerick
Not in
plant
Ireland.
is at.
There's a Limerick somewhere here in America. I assume it has to be.
Give me a second. I'll tell you where this one is. It's in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
The investment is to preserve 5.1 gigawatts and add another 1.2 gigawatts to further stabilize energy prices at a critical time. Let's see. It's first of its kind upgrade across major control and protection systems. Digital modernization represents a future grid-connected nuclear baseload power with improved operational efficiency. You know, it's interesting because a lot of the nuclear fleet, when they call all the power plants a fleet. Anyways, right. A lot of these are like 60 plus years old. I mean, it's amazing how long some of these have been sitting. It's really hard to fathom that we've had nuclear power for so long.
Going back, into the first Atoms for Peace program back in the 50s, and then Kennedy, era. So, what's that, 40, 50, 55 years now? No, 75 years.
Well, you figure it was 80 years ago when we tested the first nuclear weapon. So it's interesting to see how far along this has come. But they keep reviving some of these 60-year-old facilities. That kind of makes me a little nervous.
Well, there's a thing called nuclear embrittlement, right? Where the radiation basically begins to break down the molecules and the piping and all the other things. I watched several of videos on recovering of World War II aircraft from swamps, like in New Guinea. There was a P-47, and then there was a B-29 that was recovered from Greenland and things
Mhm.
like that. And it's amazing what sitting out in those environments does in terms of wearing out or embrittling or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
degrading the metals in those aircraft just sitting outside. So I can't imagine if you're actively under continual bombardment from beta waves or whatever they are, what that'll do to that material. So yeah,
No,
please be careful, folks. I'd rather, you do that than hastily bring things online and have another, Chernobyl or whatever happen. So
3 Mile Island.
yeah.
Not that 3 Mile Island ended up being all that
No,
bad. I mean,
well, that's why you mentioned Chernobyl, because Chernobyl did in fact have actual, they didn't when 3 Mile Island went down, they did not, evacuate and ask everybody, from Harrisburg and the surrounding community, Lancaster and York, didn't ask them to evacuate.
mhm.
Whereas in the area of Chernobyl, that whole, the whole town was an area was abandoned and sealed off under armed guard.
Yeah. There's been the two big accidents that people know about are, obviously Chernobyl and Fukushima. And Fukushima was still, it was old technology, but getting hit, an earthquake and a tsunami,
At the same
and
or in sequence,
as part of this, in sequence. There's got to be something for that. I know the newer tech, the Gen 4 stuff is designed that it wouldn't be affected by an earthquake or geological events. Most of the design are designed that if you flew an airliner into one of the systems, it wouldn't cause a problem.
Yeah.
You might shut down operations, but
it's a precaution.
you're not going to have. It's actually, a lot of the designs, when I see pitch decks, they're usually putting the reactor 50 feet underground, so it specifically cannot be targeted by bombing or crashing a civilian aircraft into it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use some massive ordnance penetrator and hit it, and then create a dirty bomb out of it. But that's a whole other ball game, right? I mean, even you look at.
I think that's a application generally beyond the skill of the average terrorist group. So
yeah, and generally in the war in Ukraine, it's been going on now. Would it start in 22? We're almost to 4 years.
Yeah,
and
February 24th, my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, bro.
A friend of mine, they released their crypto coin on the same day that the invasion started. So it's their coin's still around. Anyways, but
unfortunately, so is the Russian occupation of parts of Ukraine, and
but what I was getting at is, while they have had some things happen with the nuclear facilities in Ukraine, as a general rule, both sides have avoided shooting.
Yeah. Although apparently the encapsulating dome over Chernobyl has been penetrated.
Oh, it's a big hole. I saw pictures of people working trying to fix the damn thing. Yeah, it got hit. Some kind of Russian drone hit it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine though why they'd even have a drone operating in that area, because that part of Ukraine borders Belarus.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess Russia's still probably flying drones from Belarus into.
And this, of course, Ukraine has an impact on Iran, because who is supplying Russia with their Shahid drones?
Yeah, the Iranians.
Yeah.
All right. Battery energy storage boom driving lithium demand recovery. Lithium has gotten super cheap. There's so much of it being mined worldwide that prices kind of keep crashing. That's why we keep saying battery prices crash.
Watching that, how it, down here there's no demand, then there goes up, and then people start mining more of it or refining more of it, and then it drops, and then it,
We hear people try to talk about about lithium, how it's finite or whatever, but of course it's not. You and I both know it's not
Right.
it's almost an infinite
You just
resource.
suck it out of the ocean if
Yeah.
you need.
Grid scale battery storage boom is bolstering lithium demand outlook in 26 after the prices of lithium had collapsed. But the price collapse had caused the US to almost overnight have an oversupply market for battery storage cells, driving down costs and accelerating deployments because it's gotten inexpensive. The Texas grid getting major battery storage boosts this winter with more projects connecting in January 26th than December of 25. Now, this is, of course, significant for Texas because, well, they had that problem a few years ago with, a rough winter storm.
Yeah.
And it pretty much, it caused some serious problems. It could have gotten really serious.
And now, have you heard what's going on in Berlin?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're having a major problem in Berlin with apparently it's been extremely cold weather over there, and they had apparently some group attacked a substation or something, and so a large area of Berlin has been blacked out.
Huh.
And now we're not. Have you been watching what's happening in Moscow? Holy crap! Things are really. They got hit by a major snowstorm. Snow that is literally waist deep.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with the Ukrainian attacks on the various power plants and refineries and things like that, there's been some serious power losses in the city of Moscow and some of the surrounding communities.
Good. They deserve it. Yeah.
I see this and I feel for the Russian people, because all of this is because of one idiot, one little short, individual who bullied his way into power and now, figured he could, rebuild the Russian Empire. And now all those people are suffering because of it. So.
Did you ever see the picture of Ronald Reagan visiting Mexico, or not, visiting Moscow and being in Red Square, and he got introduced to some Russian tourists, and it was Putin and his family?
I don't remember that. No.
You've never seen that picture?
No.
Yeah, it's a young Putin.
Yeah.
Supposedly just visiting with his family,
in his KGB years, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah. All right. Lucid hits record Q4 deliveries.
Yeah.
Lucid delivered 5,300 vehicles in Q4, which is up 72% year over year, beating analysts' estimates of 5,070 units, which that's not a big jump from the estimates, like 300 more. But at the same time, Lucid stock dropped 60% in 2025, while Rivian rose 45% and Tesla 15%. Even though I don't know.
Let's see. Here we got they're trading at 11.59, down a little less than a point.
Yeah, Rivian's down a little bit. Yeah, it's always weird. You see Ford up a little bit. It's interesting to see. Sometimes the stock news doesn't make much sense. NVIDIA is not doing anything. AMD down a little bit for some reason. You just never know what's going on there. Microsoft.
Somebody does. And they're putting their money where their mouth is, apparently.
Sometimes companies are just selling off stock to take profit. And when they're doing that, the price goes down.
Yeah.
Nano down. Oklo back to 89. They dropped all the way to about 73. They're recovering a little bit. All right. So let's talk about New York City congestion.
Yeah,
so congestion pricing.
I found this very interesting.
Yeah. So let me see.
Okay, let's set it up here. Cities in Europe were having real concerns about the amount of traffic, what that was doing to the air quality in the city, as well as just simply the movement of goods and things and people through the city. What they did was London implemented a congestion charge in the central part of the official city of London. And so when you drove in there with anything but an electric vehicle, the electric vehicles were exempt, you had to pay a fee, and that fee gradually has increased over the years. It has had a positive effect in that the number of cars have reduced, the amount of noise has reduced, the amount of pollution is reduced. And so the city of New York, taking a cue from what London has done, decided we're going to do the same thing on the island of Manhattan in the area apparently south of 60th Street.
60th Street.
Yeah. And so they put that in. It's like $9 fee apparently to enter there with a vehicle. And and so as you would expect, people were, people that regularly went in there were complaining and so on and so on. But it turns out that it's had, as this article points out, it's had a very positive effect on the residents there in New York City.
Crashes are down 55%.
Yeah.
Injuries are down 51% in 1 month. Traffic volumes, pollution, and noise levels dropped sharply. Transit speeds improved as car volumes declined. But, when people say New York is noisy, they really mean cars are noisy because it's all the cars. It's cut down massively on the amount of car noise. Now, of course, if you switch to electric vehicles, you get rid of that noise altogether, right?
As well, yeah.
But $9 toll. I guess it must be, they're enforcing it with 1,400 license plate cameras. Since it went into effect, the New York Times reports an 11% decrease in daily traffic throughout the borough's central business district. 73,000 fewer vehicles per day, 27 million fewer trips in 1 year. People who drive or use buses experience much less traffic. Average travel speeds increased 4.5%, while the rest of New York experienced a 1.4% increase. So I guess the effect was pushed all the car travel to other places.
Other places, yeah.
Local bus speeds are up. Now, I'm wondering how this is affecting shopping in those areas. Did this now then have a negative effect on shopping? This was one of the big talks about London, was how that affected the shopping in those districts. But I don't really know how. I haven't exactly spent a lot of time really worrying about
any listeners in the UK, particularly in London, if you'd like to share your experiences, we would appreciate it.
Yeah.
As well, obviously, if you're in New York and affected by the the congestion charges, we'd like to hear. So comment below.
I would suspect it probably has an effect on crime too. Probably not big, but I bet there's an effect on crime. I know that, for instance,
good or bad.
Well,
less traffic means a crook can get away quicker, or what?
No, it means they're less likely to have taken a chance of going through having their path traced.
Yeah,
so that there's probably going to be less crime in those areas. Although, maybe the criminals weren't driving cars to start with, right? Yeah. I'm just saying it would be.
They're on electric. They're on electric bikes now.
Yeah, there you go. The electric bike mafia. So each week, my bus round trip is 30 to 60 minutes faster than it was before congestion pricing. Wow, that's a pretty good. Somebody says they commute from Kingston by bus every day, and every week my round trips are 30 to 60 minutes faster. That's a big improvement for
oh my God, yeah,
people like that.
Yeah.
So that has definitely got a positive effect. I'm sure plenty of people are upset about it, but that is a very positive effect. All right, everybody be happy to know. Our favorite politician, Elon Musk, has returned to politics, funding the GOP for 2026 midterms. He has confirmed that he has abandoned plans to launch his own American party, refocusing on Tesla and SpaceX, but while supporting the GOP. Yeah, we'll see how this works out for Tesla again.
Yeah.
Hey,
speaking of Tesla, by the way, we should mention that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has declined Tesla's application for the trademark on Cybercab.
Tuber is where it's at. Okay, they need to just get a trademark on Tuber. Yeah, and that would be the Tesla.
That would solve it, unless, of course, Uber decides to.
Uber might not like it.
Protest. But,
Let me call it Tuber. Yeah, I don't know, folks. I really think that is that's the way it needs to go. Let's see, and then if it's a Lucid self-driving robo-taxi, it'd be a Luber.
A Luber,
yeah, that'll sound even funnier. All right. 20% of all climate venture funding last year was in nuclear. Nuclear startups got 20% of climate venture funding last year. Publicly traded nuclear firms are seeing significant investment as AI-powered demands drive interest. Smart money betting on nuclear is a scalable, clean energy solution for data centers and grid stability. It's really interesting how in this space, the places I'm seeing that need energy, what we found for our small nuclear reactor projects is it's not really so much AI, it's manufacturing. So the small reactors seem to really cater more, the pricing is more attractive for somebody who's manufacturing. And this is where I go back to my, end energy poverty, is because you need somebody willing to put that investment of manufacturing someplace where there would be cheap labor, and those people need jobs. And then you need somebody like my company to come in and provide the energy so that you can do the manufacturing, but you have to have that manufacturer to be there to be willing to pay for the energy, and then the people benefit. So you basically, it's kind of a two-step process. You got to have both somebody who is willing to manufacture and somebody who would be willing to invest in nuclear behind that manufacturer. Because at the very least, even on a small scale, even a 1 megawatt reactor, which is like a generator size reactor, but that could still power 500 to 1,000 homes. That's still probably going to be $40-50 million. When you start getting a while for it to, so that'd be for that. But if you went to like a 15 megawatt, you're probably talking about $100 million investment. You get to 50 megawatt though, you're only maybe $200 million investment. It really, the numbers really start improving when you start getting into these larger numbers. And you get to a 200 megawatt type setup, you may be talking, 500 million. It really starts, so you've gone from 30 or 40 million for a megawatt to 2.5 million for a megawatt. So as you start getting up there in bigger size, but you got to have a pretty damn big manufacturer instead of needing 200 megawatts. And that was all I wanted to cover. We've been going for about an hour already.
Let's see. I think I got, we talked about Geely coming in 2 to 3 years. We talked about the New York congestion zone. So that's pretty well done. And of course, Iran and, Venezuela and all those geopolitical things that are kind of out of our space, but not really.
No, Bill and I will discuss anything. So,
at least with some amount of intelligence and thought behind it, obviously.
We try. We try. Yeah. So join us on Friday for rotary engines versus air-cooled engines. No, I'm kidding about that. Yeah. we'll discuss the advantages of rotary engines and single-engine fighter aircraft. But yeah.
By the way, that's actually what I was doing Sunday. I was helping. We're building an airplane, our local EAA chapter. So I was in there helping. Put in clecos, take out clecos, and all that kind of fun stuff. So.
Well, you probably don't have the issue with a air-cooled engine there because the aircraft doesn't expect them to take ground fire, right?
No, shouldn't expect to take ground fire. And actually, we do have a Rotax engine parked in the corner there. So I don't think we're building a glass star, and I think the glass star will have something more in the line of a Lycoming 320.
Yeah. All right. Well, we had lots of viewers today with folks. I appreciate nobody wanted to chat today, but they watched us for a whole damn hour.
Well, thank you, folks.
Yeah. Thanks, folks. And I should be back with Mike tomorrow, as far as I know, for our engineering special. Anyways, otherwise, folks, have a great day.